Hey, welcome. We've got a brand new outdoor show. It's going to be called Goose in the Wild. And I'm really George Beardall, but most of the community knows me by Goose. I got my nickname from Coach Gus Black back in 1964 when I was on the sophomore basketball team. He said, well, what's more important, goose hunting or basketball? And I said, well, at the time, goose hunting. He said, well, we'll just have to start calling you Goose then. So it's stuck ever since. And so that's going to be the name of our new outdoor show. As I said before, it's going to be called Goose in the Wild. We've got our first guest here. It's my good friend Cody Bradford. He lives down in Lake Shore, and he's got some hunting dogs. He trains them, he raises them, and I thought it'd be interesting to kick our show off with something different that nobody knows a lot about. I know, for me, for one, I don't know that much about hunting dogs, training them and things of that nature. So I'd like to welcome Cody to our show.
Thank you.
And we're going to ask him how he actually got started in this hunting dog thing, this hunting dog stuff. And I found it to be pretty interesting, and hopefully you viewers will find it just as interesting as I did.
Well, growing up in Leland with the river bottoms right there, Goose, I remember hunting down there, and I watched a guy come by one time, and he had a really good bird dog, and I thought, one of these days I'm going to have me one of them bird dogs. And I borrowed a dog from my Uncle Randall, and just fell in love with it. And then, lucky for me, my dad allowed me to have all the dogs I wanted from there on out. And trial and error, I just kept having good ones and bad ones, and working with them and trying to see different things that work to make them hunt better for different situations. So that's kind of how I got started, and it's been a great hobby ever since.
And how old were you?
Oh, I was about 12 years old.
So, to our viewers out there, if you're 12 years old or younger or close to 12, Cody could be your inspiration. Maybe this is something that you'd like to get interested in, getting your first dog, and then you've graduated to how many dogs now?
Right now I run 6 bird dogs, and I've had up as many as 8, but I try to keep right around 6. I keep a few older ones, and then I'm always trying to bring a pup along, so when the older ones get old enough to move along and they go ahead, that we always have something to replace them with.
And so the 6 dogs you have now are what breeds?
Right now I'm running English Pointers, German Shorthairs, English Setters, and Brittany Spaniels. First breed's called the English Setter. But she's a 1-year-old little female dog. The breeding comes out of Lake Hollow Kennels out of Idaho. I really like this breeding. It's kind of a shorter hair for an English Setter. They hold their tails really high. They're great for upland game. Not something I recommend for waterfowl. This is an English Setter. This next one here is a Brittany Spaniel. This is a young dog, about 6 months old. Comes from Sam Lunsford out of Salem, Utah. Really nice dogs. They were used a lot more in the early 80s, late 70s, a lot more than you see them now. They were a lot more popular in Spanish working in this area. A really good dog to have. They kind of have a little more hair on them. They will attract the birds a little bit more than, say, your German Shorthairs or your English Pointers. This next one here is a German Shorthair. This is breeding out of my stock, my own stock here that I've bred and put together. They're probably the most common that you'll find around. Waterfowl, they like to retrieve, point, honor. They're just a good dog to have around in this climate. With the heat and the coolness, they can handle both. Moving on down to the next line is going to be an English Pointer. And these dogs are bred a little bit more for the heat. They can handle the heat a little bit better. They run a little bit longer and harder. Really good for pheasants and chukars. And they're really popular in this area also. So any of these dogs I recommend to anybody. There's a lot more out there. There's Weimanheimers, Springer Spaniels, Labs. Any of them would be great for pheasant hunting in this area.
Easily.
You can kind of see they just have a little goatee. They've got a little more wiry hair. They do have a short tail. Really great for the cold weather. Also good for hot weather. A lot of the weather in Utah's, these dogs do really well in Utah also. They hold point, they retrieve, and they're really good in the water. So that is a good recommendation right there as a German Wirehair.
Okay, and do you have a personal favorite?
No, not really. What I like, when I'm hunting chukars, I like a big running dog, which is a dog that'll really get out a long ways and hold point for a long time. And what I found to work best for them is an English pointer or an English setter. When you're hunting pheasants like around here, I like my German Shorthairs, my Brittany Spaniels. They get down and seem to bust the cover up a little bit better.
Okay. Now our viewers are probably wondering, is this an expensive hobby? I know you've got a dog trailer, and we got a picture of your dog trailer in the footage. How much are we talking when it comes to dog trailers?
It can be just like anything else. You can make it as expensive as you want, Goose. There is dog trailers out there. There's companies that make them. They're really good for going on long trips to Nevada, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, hunting different places. I recommend them for that situation. They do have them porta kennels that you can pick up at Sam's, different places for 30, 40 bucks. So you can go inexpensive or you can go to the other extreme. The key part is just to have fun, I think.
Okay, and I noticed in our footage, you've got compartments for the dogs, and then we go inside the trailer. And so can you just tell our viewers about what's in the trailer?
What's in the trailer, we have a 15-gallon water tank. Most important, like I said before, is always make sure you have plenty of water for your dogs. There's also a place for your guns, your ammunition, and then all your clothing. You might be hot, you might be cold, so there's plenty of space for different situations. Dry boots, dry socks. As you know, goose hunting, you're always going to have wet feet, so I like to have a dry pair of boots when we're done. Place for your dog food, and just makes it a lot more comfortable as you're traveling down the road to have all your gear back there in the trailer, and it seems to be a little more comfortable in the front of the pickup.
Okay. Now I was thinking about how expensive are the dogs?
I've heard a lot of guys talk. The best dog I ever had was one that my neighbor gave me.
And who was that?
I've just heard a lot of guys say that.
Oh, okay.
That they gave him. But in today's world, the breeding is so perfect. You can spend a lot of money on a good bird dog in today's world. The breeding programs do work. It's the people and the time that you spend with them. To get a good dog, you basically just pick the breed that you like or what you enjoy, and then just spend time with them. There's tons and tons of videos out there. There's a lot of people out there. Myself, if anybody has questions and I feel like I can answer it, I'll be happy to answer them. If I can't, I can direct you in a way that somebody can. So there's lots of different ways with dogs, and you can spend up to $10,000–$15,000 a dog, and you can get one give to you from your neighbors. So.
Okay. So I'm just kind of thinking, what do you look for in the personality of the dog? In your opinion, what makes a good hunting dog?
Each breed's a little bit different, but what I like is I look for a pup maybe that's not so shy, maybe not necessarily the bully, but one kind of right in the middle, and then one that kind of fits my personality, knowing that it's going to be with me for most of the time. Also, now that I have kids, I like them to be able to be around kids. At one time, I really didn't care if they liked people or not. All I wanted them to do to hunt, but now that I have kids of my own, I want them to be able to have a good personality and enjoy, you know, children also. So, and you can pick that out in them. Just when you're looking at litters of puppies, always look for that different situation. Have them follow you and look at them. Always look at the parents, the male and the female, and then spend time with them. You know, there's times I'll go back and look at a litter of pups 2 or 3 different times before I pick one. And always know the breeding and what the history is behind them. So.
Okay, you noticed you mentioned male and female. Do you have a preference? Does the gender make a difference in the skill of the dog?
Not really. I prefer a female. I don't know why. I just always have. In my opinion, a female will learn a little bit quicker, but a male will last longer in the long run. So you might have a female that learns a little faster, but a male seems to last longer than a female. So do you want a good dog to begin with or a good dog at the end?
Oh.
It's all in the eye of the beholder, I think.
Okay. Now for our viewers, what do you think about the trainer? What kind of personality does he have to have?
The trainer has to have an open mind. I think that any kind of bird dog is going to test you and test you and test you.
Kind of like kids at school?
Absolutely.
I know I have kids at school. I teach PE, junior high PE, up in West Valley. And yes, I got kids that test me all the time. So it's no different with dogs.
Absolutely.
How much of this hobby includes your wife and your kids?
My kids, in the summertime, they'll be out there with me every night. My daughter loves it. She spends a lot of time with me, and my son, he seems to like it so far. Hopefully, when he gets a little bit older, he'll spend more time with it. It's been really great for my father and me, and also my father-in-law. Terry, he loves bird dogs, and it's brought us really close. And he's taught me a lot with bird dogs also.
There's probably some women out here in our audience thinking, oh, another man hobby to take my man away from me and the kids. So is it a good hobby? Is it a good family hobby?
Absolutely. Always take a kid hunting.
And what about the wife?
Yep, if she likes to do that and wants to go, absolutely. Take your wife hunting all you can.
Okay.
We always need a good cook.
Now, did you hear that? We always need a good cook on these hunting trips. What do you think of that? Now, that's probably a tongue-in-cheek,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, when I was down to your place the other day, I noticed that you got a pan of chuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Are those hand-raised?
Yeah. Actually, we bought them from Nebo School District, raised them, and I was able to purchase them from them guys.
So what do you think of that? Is that a good deal to go along with the dog?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why is that?
I believe that, you know, that in today's world out there, there's just not enough wild birds in the wild. And so what I like to do is I like to plant them birds. And with what I found with chuckers, they're a covey bird, which means they'll recall. So if you have 10 or 15 birds in a pen and you turn out 2, most likely those 2 are going to come back to that pen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so you can catch them and put them back in the pen and reuse them.
Huh.
Where a pheasant, you know what, they probably won't, odds are they're not going to come back to that pen. But quail and chucker will work their way back to that pen.
Oh, I didn't know that. And I noticed you've got the chain down there.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you train your dogs. Can
Yep.
you kind of clue our audience in on how you do that?
Absolutely. What we have is a chain gang, is what I call it, and it'll hold anywhere from 2 to 7, 8, 9 dogs. And most of my training is done on that chain. I try to put them on before I train and after I train. I feel that there's a lot of knowledge gained right there on that chain that I don't have to be there. I can be working with another dog, and they'll be watching one another, they'll be doing different things. They just learn a lot on that chain.
Okay, now I'm just kind of being the devil's advocate right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about those groups out there that thinks that that's cruel and unusual punishment?
what that is we're just gaining respect for one another. I'm seeing where they stand and they see where I stand, and also among the dogs that are with them. Because the last thing I want to be doing is hunting and have my dog run over and have a problem with somebody else's dog that I don't know. And with that, I'm establishing the pecking order on that chain, and they'll establish that amongst each other.
So is the pecking order very important?
Very important. Yep, absolutely.
And why would you say that's important?
They're going to figure that out before, if you put some dogs together in the morning before dark, they'll have it figured out who's the leader of the pecking order. It's no different than if you take 10 horses and put in a pasture before dark, they're going to know who's the leader of that pecking order. And what I try to do in that is I try to make sure that I am the leader of that pecking order. And that's where that chain comes involved, is we're establishing the leader of the pecking order will be me, and then who's ever going to be around me, whether that be my children or my wife, hunting partners, or whether it be you. I like them to make sure that they understand the respect for a human and then them.
Okay. I think we ought to fill the audience in on when you're out in the field with your dogs, and you've got, say, 4 dogs. Is the leader the king of the pecking order? Does he always get the set, the hard set? Is he always the one that flushes the birds?
No.
How do we do that?
What I like to do is, that's why I have more than one, is I want them all to be able to point. And you'll see later on in one of those films where we had that point. Every dog should respect another dog on point. So if I'm walking down a ditch bank and some other guy's walking down in the field and his dog goes on point, I want my dog to respect that, whether it's part of the pecking order or not. That is a command that has been taught before anything had to do, or after the pecking order came involved. That is just a command that, out of respect for that dog and for me, that they stop and honor one another.
So I know you had terms for each dog. Mm-hmm. What are the terms?
As far as,
in our footage, you was talking about the one was on.
Yeah, what one was on point.
Right.
And then the other 3 were honoring.
Honoring.
But what you'll see in that footage was the one was on point, then the next one came in, and then the next one, and then the next one. Well, the last dog didn't know which dog had the bird. And the second to last dog didn't know which had the bird. The first dog knew it had the bird, and the second dog knew it had the bird, but the last 2 didn't know which one of the other 2 had it. Oh. And so all that was just a chain of honor.
Okay.
And then when the bird came up, they got to see where it come from.
All right, that makes sense to me.
So.
Do your dogs ever get into a quarrel?
Yes.
Do they ever have any differences like people?
Yes, they do.
Working that closely
Yep.
together?
Competition. They're competing against one another all the time. Every time they're in the field, a good dog will always want to compete against the other dog. I feel that absolutely. They're going to compete against one another to do whatever they can to please me. Okay. Or to please whoever they're hunting with. And
so do you have a reward system?
Their reward basically is to be able to get out and be there and be hunting and to point that bird and watch it come up.
So you don't give them any reinforcement like a biscuit or anything like that?
No, I don't. I do always make sure I pet them and let them know that they did a good job, absolutely.
So what's their durability and what's the word I'm thinking about? Duration. What's that like out in the field? Can they go for hours or do they tire easy?
As long as they're in shape. Yeah, you have to get them in shape. And a lot of times, like in the summer, I like to run them if I can, if work will allow it. I like to run them in the heat of the day a few times. As long as I got plenty of water, I feel really good about it. And then just start working them up to where I can run them, as long as they'll go. It's normal for a dog to run 4 or 5 hours, hard run 4 or 5 hours after they're in good shape. So when you're out hunting, you can run a dog 4 or 5 hours if the dog's in shape. Now, it might take you 2 or 3 months to get that dog into that kind of conditioning, but absolutely.
So that means you got to be in shape.
Yep.
The trainer's got to be in shape.
Yep.
So there's no Monday morning quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's right.
There's none of that. There's
No.
none of the couch potatoes. That's
That's
the term.
right.
We're sitting on the couch here tonight, so I can't run my dog sitting on the couch.
No, you need to spend time. And what I recommend, if someone gets a pup, and I get this question all the time, Goose, how much time should I spend with my dog? As much time as you can. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the night is perfect. If you can do more, do more. But always, if you're looking at buying a pup and you don't have 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the night, you probably don't need to get yourself a bird dog, because they need that much time.
Okay, so what I asked you earlier, some of the women's probably thinking, oh, something else to take my hubby away. So you're saying if you don't have that much time, you better forget the dog?
Or, you know what, you need to spend 20 minutes in the morning and your wife needs to spend 20 minutes at night. And there's a lot of couples out there that like to hunt together. And I know a lot of women trainers that can handle dogs probably better than men.
Ooh, that's good to hear.
They're a little bit softer, and you know, a dog will always like somebody that's soft. They always have a tendency to. So.
Now, when you say soft, not milk toast, not a pushover.
No.
What do you mean by soft?
Just a woman will always have a little bit softer voice, a little softer hand,
Okay.
and them dogs can feel that. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I was thinking, how long are you going to stay in this hobby?
Jeez, as long as I can.
Are you ever going to get to the point where you're tired of running around, tired of the training, tired of just spending that extra time?
Yeah, I get tired of it now at different times, but I know as long as they're out there, I need to spend the time. It's just like any other hobby that, if you get doing too much of it, or I should say if it becomes work, it takes away a little. But like this last week, makes it all worth it when I can get up every morning and go hunt wild birds, or I can go hunt chuckers. It makes it all worth it.
Okay. Now I'm just kind of thinking about the person who's not into killing animals.
Mm-hmm.
What's your feeling on that?
What do I feel about a person that's not into killing animals and having a bird dog?
Uh-huh.
I think that's great. As long as you allow that bird dog to spend time in the wild doing what they're bred to do. You don't have to kill them. I spend probably 90% of my time, Goose, just chasing wild birds without a gun.
Oh.
That is most of the season. I only got a week to where we can hunt. So the other time of the year, the other days, I'm out there chasing them birds just without a gun. I've hunted with a lot of guys that just say, I like to watch them dogs work. And that's it. That's a lot of fun just to watch a dog work. You don't necessarily have to shoot them. It's very enjoyable, and it's fun to just watch a good dog work.
So we don't have to be into this killing thing.
Nope.
Okay, because we used to goose hunt and do all that scattergun hunting all the time, and then Dad got sick in '83, and he couldn't handle the cold anymore, being in a cold goose pit.
Mm-hmm.
So he sold his gun and decoys, and whoever bought them got them for a song, and he sang the song. He got them pretty cheap. And so after Dad wasn't able to go, then I just kind of lost my interest of hunting. Then after my son was killed in '87, then I had no desire to kill animals.
Uh-huh.
So I just wondered how you felt, if there's some people out there who feels the same way I do, but they still like the outdoors, they still like nature, and they still like animals. They can still enjoy all that.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yep, that's why it's there.
So we don't necessarily have to go out and kill an animal.
Nope.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, you'll find that if you like dogs and you like being in the outdoors, it's a lot of fun just to watch them work. I love to take young kids out that like to hunt. There's a lot of times I won't take a gun. I'll just watch them. I enjoy just watching the dogs. So, absolutely.
Well, for our audience, we've had Cody explain the dog trailer. We've had him explain his chain and how he trains them. We've had him talk about a little bit about his chucker pan. We've had him talk about the qualities and personalities that a good dog must have, and also his trainer. We've talked about how he got into this hobby and what it takes, and those things that it is a good family outing. And so I've learned a lot. Hopefully our listening and viewing audience has learned as much as I have. And I appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for tuning in. And this is Goose BirdDog with my special guest, Cody Bradford, signing off.